Beer Friday on Kaplan and Crew, Alex has said, and I tend to agree with him often. In this case, I think he's right. This may have been my best idea ever.
Ever.
Thank you, Alex.
Well, I mean, you spoke straight to my soul. You said, let's have different craft breweries on and have them give us free beer and let's drink it during the show. I mean, what do you want me to say? It's a bad idea? It's the greatest idea you've ever done.
It'll be an even better idea as the demand becomes more so. In other words, we've done like Ballast Point and we've done Stone and Mike Hess Brewery. And who else, Alex? Who have I missed?
We did Pizza Port last week while you were out getting your colonoscopy.
That's right. And today we're going to meet the guys from Eppig Brewing. And so the more and more breweries that we put on, the more they're calling us now. And at some point, there's actually going to be some business here to be had. You know, otherwise we're just giving away airtime, which we're about to do, which I think is super cool. So we're about to meet Eppig Brewing. And so, Alex, you'll have to give us what you know about Eppig, and then we'll kind of learn a little bit more.
Yeah, we're going to have on Clayton, Clayton, is it a founder, owner? What is the proper term for what you are?
Yeah, founder. I guess co-founder, because there's four of us. And one of the owners, it's me, Nate, Todd and Stephanie, who are husband and wife. And so I guess co-founder, brewer, kind of all the above, like we were saying, with wearing many hats. We're kind of all those things, but I come from a place of brewing, and I am one of the co-founders, I guess.
Yeah, so I met Clayton, I don't know how many years ago, through Jeff, who Scott and John know now because of Ballast Point. And from my understanding, Clayton, you used to work at Ballast Point, and then you decided to branch off and start your own thing. And that's how I got to know you. I think I knew you once you opened Eppig, is once I got to know you. So that's how I met Clayton, Scott.
Well, I want to hear this. So Clayton, tell me how that goes, because we love to talk about people's business. You're working at Ballast Point. And how did you come up with, hey, let's go do our own thing? And once you decided you wanted to do your own thing, who had money and, how did it all, I mean, I love stories about guys starting out of their garage. I mean, what's the background here for Eppig Brewing?
Yeah. Several years ago, 2010 or so, I had a clever idea that it'd be neat to own my own business. I was actually in school, considering graduate school, and, I just couldn't get excited about it. So I was bartending at Karl Strauss downtown. If you ask enough beer people questions, you'll find out it's all interwebbed through Karl Strauss, Ballast Point, Stone, Pizza Port. That we've all come from inside those places. Fell in love with beer at Karl Strauss as just a bartender, and got a job at back of the house in Ballast Point. I said, well, maybe I could learn a little bit about brewing, and this should be fun and easy, and maybe I could open a brew pub. Now, when I made that choice, there was like 30 breweries in San Diego, maybe. It might have been less, honestly. It might have been less. And that wasn't a terrible idea. A place that does burgers and has their own beer, that sounded like a real clever idea. So I was at Ballast for 4 or 5 years. Group started on a bottling line, canning line, kegging, filter, cellar, and then brewer, and did that for several years. And more and more breweries kind of opened, and I realized, I was like, well, if we're going to do this, we have to do this for real. I had what might be considered at the time in 2016, probably one of the best brewing jobs you could have in San Diego. I worked at Ballast Point during their absolute fiery, blazing peak, and I was there with Patty's mutual friend, Jeff. We kind of came up from the bottom and got to learn so much. And through a mutual friend, I was hanging out at South Park Brewing with a buddy of mine, and I was looking at Cosimo, who's a local brewing legend, and I was watching him on the brew system, and I said to my buddy, I was like, man, this is all I want. I wish I had a little restaurant, could make my own beer, and I think that would make me happy. And he goes, hold that thought. I got somebody you should meet. And then within a week, I sat down at the Turf Club in Golden Hill with Todd and Stephanie Eppig. She's the Eppig. Todd's Todd Warshaw. They were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. They're married now and are partners. And she regaled me with this amazing story of her ancestors who moved from Bavaria in Germany to Brooklyn in the 1860s They were brewers. They opened a big brewery, and for 70 years, 70, had successful lager brewery in the Brooklyn area. Now, if you imagine back then, you dealt beer in concentric circles around your brewery because nobody had a car. So it was all horse and wagon. So they actually had multiple breweries around New York City. They were very successful, and then Prohibition happened. But it didn't kill them. They kept on working through that by switching to what they call cereal beverages, non-alcoholic beer. For those of you who don't know, when you make a non-alcoholic beer, you start with beer, and then you just boil off the alcohol. It's not really good for the beer. It doesn't make it taste any better. But if you start with full-blown beer, and you're in Brooklyn, in Prohibition, and like every brewery, you have a front door and a back door, some beer was rolling out the back, and that's probably how the company and the family succeeded. You know, they were dealing with the locals, and they were dealing beer out the back. And come to the end of Prohibition, those people that they were dealing with, look up a guy named Dutch Schultz, the beer baron of Brooklyn. They snatched away the brewery from the family, and the family basically retired from the industry. But they retired with their lives. They didn't catch a bullet to save the company or anything. They moved on and did other things. They were well off at the time. And, it became kind of lore in their family that we have these brewing roots. So my friend introduced me to this family, the Eppig family, and they told me the story, and I said, hey, maybe we should do something. And it all started on a napkin. So that's kind of where it generated from. The investment is from all of us. We started Eppig, the new school version, in 2016 in North Park, in one of those brewery igniter buildings. So for those not familiar, a company here built 3 small breweries in a building, an ex-gentleman's club, formerly known as Pole Position, Uptown Nightlife, the Royale, some other great names. Anyway, so they cut up that building and they put 3 breweries in it. And to start, it was Eppig Brewing, Pariah Brewing, who's still there, and our friends at San Diego Brewing Company kind of filled that. So that enabled a guy like myself, and then our other partner, Nate, who was the head of all of research and development at Ballast Point. Smart guy, good friend of mine. We were just sort of ready to go on and do our own thing after a few years. And we said, hey, we can get into this brewery with tens of thousands of dollars instead of millions of dollars, which is what we were looking at if we were going to build a brewery. So we opened in 2016 in North Park, and, it was off to the races.
Wow, dude, congratulations. Amazing story. For all entrepreneurs out there who hear this story, seriously, if you don't mind telling us, and maybe you do, and if you do, no problem, but how much money did it take startup?
That's a great question. So when we were looking to build basically the brewery I have now, for those of you who don't know, we have a new brewery here in Vista. We can talk about that in a little bit. We were budgeting like 1.2 to 1.5 million and gonna have to go raise all that. In reality, that $1.2 million brewery cost me $2 million, of which we had to raise. But to get into North Park, we started with about 75 grand of our money. Sold a motorcycle, cashed in some small stocks I had, and so did everybody else. We did raise some friends and family money. I guess, and they're technically investors, but silent investors, and that helped get us to, let's call it roughly 100 grand at the end of the day, to just for some operating cash that just sat in the bank, and then a crappy van, a crappy forklift, things to just get us going. So Brewing helped us do that.
How did you guys go from we are a concept to we've cashed in and put our money together to now we've created our own recipe of beer to now we have to go can it, sell it, distribute it, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, it's great to have the idea and it's great to be on paper and it's great to have a couple dollars in the bank, but how do you actually start selling the beer?
For us, that was me. When I graduated and moved to San Diego in 2001, I initially had a sales job, that first job you get out of college if you're a marketing major or a communications major, and I got a job for a company selling uniform contracts. And so I was like, of the 4 of us, I'll be the one that'll go bar to bar to meet people. I didn't necessarily know a lot of people. My career at Ballast Point was a lot of overnights and stuff, so I kind of wasn't tapped into the industry. Like the generation that came before us, kind of the Bagbies and stuff. Those guys are the ones we all look up to are a little more tapped in. So I would get up, brew, and about 1 or 2 in the afternoon, I would literally go hit the streets in North Park, go door to door. How you doing? I'm Clayton. I'm the brewer. Believe it or not, that actually helped me get a lot of conversations. I think people are interested in talking to the bearded guy who says he makes the beer. And with a small brew system, we were able to kind of get some traction locally in North Park and then kind of spreading through town. And it was pretty organic. For a brewer, I'm not that shy. So combined with like being able to really talk about the beer and then also being pretty friendly and approachable, it seemed to make it not easy, but like a doable thing for us to start selling beer.
It's a great story. And today, as you're here with us, for those that are listening on radio, they can't see you, but for those that are watching, you can see that you're in a tent. And I know you told us before you came on that you're out in La Mesa at the Brigantine there. And because your driver, something happened, but that's the deal. When you're the owner or founder or the brewer, or you're wearing 10 different hats, sometimes you got to get out there and be the delivery guy too.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a driver who's out right now, and this summer, even with COVID, has been really, I'll use good as a relative term, but we've managed to continue to, work forward and sell more beer as bars and restaurants have slightly opened. Some of the restaurants have stuff like where I'm sitting. I'm currently in what looks like an Oktoberfest tent in a parking lot. The truck is 25 feet away from me. It's full of beer. And when I'm done with you guys, I'm back out on the road, back to North Park and down into Point Loma. Some people go, "Oh man, that's too bad. You have you have to go out and deliver your beer." I'm lucky. Every time something pops up like this, I say, "Hey, I'm going to get sweaty today," but there is no other thing I want to do in my life. I don't want to drive all the time. I like brewing beer better. I like selling beer better. But hey, man, I just got to meet the manager of this place. Never met him before. We shook hands. I said, "How you doing? I'm Clayton. I'm the brewer. Thank you for buying my beer." I can't say it goes a long way for them to make that connection. So.
A lot of people tell success stories of business, but oftentimes they don't give people the true detail of the hard work and the downfalls of still successful businesses. What would you say has been one of the harder things of starting this business up with such a small group?
Well, it's an all-in proposition. Me and Nate always say there ain't no plan B. And I don't come from a background or a place where I could have a plan B necessarily. And you know what? If it all goes up in flames, I go get a job. But it's an all-in proposition. So there's a ton of stress that comes with that. I got a missus in my life and a little boy and a house to pay for. And I think those things are motivating to me. It's like a no-fail option. So there's that. And then as COVID hit, it really hit home to me 2 things. Right in the beginning of COVID, I had another interview, and they said, "What's the coolest thing about opening, having your own brewery?" And I answered in the moment, and I didn't know that my answer was I had like 25 employees at the time, and I said 25 people make it their living doing this, doing what we're doing. I'm doing it. It's making my living. They're doing it. It's making their living. So in terms of like the game time pressure, it's that people depend on you. Yes, I depend on them, but in some ways I feel like more responsible for them than anything. So all my decisions, I need them to work because there are people depending on it. So now, if you want more specifics on the struggles or the challenges, 100 hours a week, forget about it. 12 to 14-hour days. Just got home, got a phone call, have to literally turn around and go back to the brewery to do the thing that you either forgot or that popped up or there's an emergency. If any of those things sound a little to you, not the business to be in. I'm lucky because all that stuff happens at some point. I like going back to work. Yes, there are inconveniences. Yes, there are sacrifices. But like I said, we're all in and there ain't no plan B. So when something has to get done, we do it.
All right. This is an awesome story. Clayton, appreciate it. Eppig Brewing. And I'm just curious, where should people find this? Should they find Eppig in the grocery store? Should they find it at local bars? where can people find it everywhere now?
Yeah, we are locally distributed. Currently, that's me. We've got one truck and a van, and we drive around and deliver. We're mostly here in San Diego. Occasionally, we have events in other cities, but for those your listeners that I know are far spread, we're in just San Diego County right now. In terms of markets, we're in the Lazy Acres, the Barrens, a lot of the local food markets. And in the bigger craft liquor stores around town. I'm at the Brigantine, I'm at the Hills in La Mesa. We're in bars and restaurants throughout kind of like central San Diego and also up the coast as well. I always say if you really like clean and fresh and crisp style beers, that's our game. If you come to Eppig looking for the newest and laziest, newest, haziest, fruited, whatchamacallit, that's not our game. That's other people's games. We got friends who do that, and that's all good. Our German background has pointed us in a direction of trying to do classic styles cleanly and crisply and with like that engineer's mentality, which Nate, the principal brewer, that's his background. He was an engineer. So from his years of R&D, brewing amazing beers for Ballast Point, he came up with Calm Before the Storm, Red Velvet, a bazillion award-winning beers. Like, that's just how his brain works. And luckily, we both like the same beers. And we have found by making those style of beers that the world in San Diego likes them too. There's people who make the, milkshake IPAs. They're fun. I like tasting those once in a while, but that's not the direction we've gone in. We've gone in a more classic direction.
Well, we got beers that you make.
I love the story. I hope we love the beer. Go ahead, Alex. Take us through them.
No, I was saying, Clayton, so you talk about that. You talk about other people's award-winning beers, but if you go to your breweries, the one in Point Loma, which is like the coolest view that I can think of in San Diego to drink at, or the one in Vista, you guys have won a lot of awards. And right now we have three in front of us right now: Fest Beer, 1045 to Denver IPA, and your special lager. Which one do you want to talk about? Which one do you want us to try?
Let's start with the special lager.
Cool.
Light,
which can is
crisp.
The red one.
So the
special,
red can.
Special. Okay.
If you're looking for our cans in the store, I see you guys have them here. I don't have them because I'm driving today. But all the lagers have a vertical name on them. We pretty much do a simple matte finish. There you go. So we call this our International Pilsner. Yeah, the roots in the story of this beer are a Japanese dry lager. When we got open, a few of our friends around town had already, in the months we were getting open, I think like AleSmith came out with a Mexican lager, Thorn came out with a Mexican lager, and, if we're going to be known as kind of the lager guys in San Diego, as over time we've kind of become to know, and I was like, we got to put our foot forward and be different. And we don't be different by putting, milk sugar in our beer or something like that. So we stepped forward and said, what about like something like a Sapporo or a Kirin or an Asahi Ichiban for those people who like to go eat sushi?
Yeah.
I was like, I like those beers. One thing that makes those beers individualistic is in Japan, well, they have a heck of a lot less barley growing there than they do rice. You can use rice as a starch that can convert into sugar through the brewing process, and we said, hey, let's give that a shot. So we came up with the Japanese dry lager, and but we did our little San Diego spin on it. We put a little American hop in the whirlpool, and it gives it just a little hint of lemon blossom or like lemon zestiness without being too cute or fruity. It's just right there in the aroma. And you get a hint of that sushi sweetness that comes from the rice, the residual sugars that are left in from the rice. And when we first had it, Nathan and I had that aha moment where the eyebrows go up, standing next to the tank, and I was like, "We're making this." And it may be our best-selling beer. It's either that or 1045 to Denver, are probably so. The IPA and then this lager currently are year-round all-time sellers. So these you can get definitely at the Barron's markets all over town. You always feel free to ask for us at the store if you don't see us there. Stores take recommendations. So
So just real quick, and by the way, you're out on the road today doing deliveries. Home broadcasting now means Gardner on Friday afternoon. So if you start to hear some stuff. Hey, so listen, Alex, you told me I was going to like these beers because I'm a light beer drinker, not a big, heavy beer drinker.
Scott and I drink like girls.
Yeah, this is delicious, man. The special lager this is exactly the kind of beer I like. Alex, you like it?
Yeah, I love it. I've had it so many times. I've had Clayton's beer a lot. So I knew that when he was coming on, because he does have a lot of lagers and that style of beer, you would have loved it. But you see the way he described a beer? He always asks me to describe beer. I can't do that. I don't know. Like, that's why we have Clayton on, because he described it so, like, precisely of what it is.
Yeah, really well done. Okay, what's the second beer we should try? Because I want to try all three. What's the 1045 to Denver? What does that mean? Like, that's a cool name.
Pop that open. So now, if you're not an IPA guy, this is definitely an IPA. But here's what I'll say: it's a classic, modern interpretation, a contemporary interpretation of a West Coast IPA. So what does that mean? Well, West Coast IPAs traditionally are on the drier side. They're going to have either piney notes, danky notes, or maybe some citrus, but they're not going to have exotic fruit notes. So this is going to have maybe a hint of dank and a hint of like orange rind or citrus zest. And it will have bitterness, but not as high as when we were back in the early 2000s, where every single brewery was punching each other out with massively bitter beers. We want this beer to be drinkable. This is our year-round bestseller. So 1045 to Denver is actually based on a story from when Nate and I were at Ballast Point. I had brewed a Piper Down. It wasn't my recipe. I think it was Colby, one of the famous Ballast Point guys. And it went to Great American Beer Festival, and it won, I think, a silver medal. And all the owners were there and all the salespeople were there, and people just went buck wild. And back then, Denver had wacky tobacco brownies available. It was legal there. It wasn't legal here. And people threw down pretty hard. So the Sunday ride to the airport was a little bit lazy and hazy. And the story is that one of the guys in the car asked somebody else a question who was asleep, and then just started telling them, "Hey, man, it's 10:45, and went on down this road. Turns out the guy was asleep. It wasn't 10:45. Nobody in the car was listening to the guy. They all had a good laugh about it, and it became an inside joke for, "How was your weekend, man?" It was 10:45. It means he took things just a little too far. So that's where the story comes from. And since then, I've, for 4 years now, heard, "Oh, I was on that plane," or "I've taken that train." And I say, "Sure, buddy. Sounds good to me."
All right, 1045 to Denver. I was on that train last night. Let's taste this.
Scott was a little hesitant about drinking against the more today, and I was like, dude, a little poison with poison, baby.
See, that listen, like it, would not drink it, not because I don't like it, because I like this one. I like the special lager. I like the taste and the lightness and the fruitiness that you described in the special lager. Totally different taste.
Great with fish, great with anything light, great in the sunny weather, hanging in a pool. If you want to check out that third beer, which is my personal favorite beer, and I don't know if owners are supposed to say that, but I will stand up with my hands in the air and say, "Best beer is best beer." I think it says it on the bottom of the can. Patty can't see because he just opened it. But
most people with multiple kids have a favorite kid. Sometimes
I do.
They have to say it. Sometimes they don't.
I do.
Hey, man, of your kids, I probably even have a favorite kid. So,
all right. So this is your beer. This is the one you like the most.
Yep. If you go,
this looks like it belongs at the Del Mar racetrack, dude. It's got
it is the same colorway as Del Mar.
What an observant view of yours there. So the Bavarian flag is blue and white, and it kind of has that checkered sign. But that color is really more the Del Mar Fair or Del Mar racetrack. When the surf hits the turf, when you go to Munich, they don't drink what we commonly know as Oktoberfest beer anymore. In the 70s, they had been drinking what's called Marzen. They brewed it in March, and it sat in cellars for the whole summer until September, really, is when Oktoberfest starts, halfway through September. Don't ask me why, but that's just when the wedding was of the Archduke that married the lady, and it was in a big field. And now in those big fields in Munich, they put the tents, and that's where the party is. Well, the beers are really, really heavy. So the head of Spaten, which is big German, Spaten, which is big German brewery, one of the 6 main houses, kind of like their Budweiser, except there's like 6 Budweisers. And they went to the group and they said, "Let's brew something lighter." So lighter was a 6% what I like to call Pilsner Plus. So it's the same kind of ingredients you might find in a Pilsner, a touch more Vienna malt just to give it a little more bread, still light, but at 6%, that's stronger than your average Pilsner. Pilsner is usually like 4.5%. So this is our party beer. It's my desert island beer. It's fuller in flavor than like a light beer, even more so than maybe special lager. So it gives me a little bit more alcohol. So if you need to take yourself somewhere, you can get there, or a little more flavor when you still want a light beer. This beer kind of rounds it out and does it all for me. So
it's called Fest beer. Are you guys pouring this, obviously, because you have Oktoberfest happening next week in Vista, right?
Yeah, you bet. We're deep in the heart of it. We just had 2 big weekends at Point Loma. In this COVID time, it's been a bit of a challenge, but we found a way to have all the tables be 10 feet apart. All my staff is fully trained. Everyone's wearing masks. You have to have a mask to be there. You're served at your table. That way there's not a lot of cross-mogination between people. And coming up, not this coming weekend, but next weekend, October 3rd, Saturday, we're having Oktoberfest at the new brewery in Vista. That is a big old beautiful building, lovely brewery. You still order inside and you can take a look through the glass at the brewery that we built. But all the seating is lovely and outside and in the sun. We've got tents, we've got umbrellas. We're going to have Beer Saw food truck up there. If you haven't had Beer Saw food truck, it's a German themed beer food truck, and the guy just kills the game. So German food is pretty meat and potatoesy. He's able to put a twist on all that, add some like some citrus, and able to lighten it up and turn it into great San Diego food, great for sitting outside and drinking beer. So we'll be there next week. I'll even have my lederhosen on.
Nice. Dude, what do you think of these masks right here? Check these bad boys out. Yeah. We're going full welder here.
Yeah, it looks like you're about to go trim the hedges outside.
Hey, Clayton, congratulations to you, your partners, and everybody involved at Eppig Brewing. And thank you very much for letting us sample. Here's my favorite special lager wins for me. Your favorite, Fest beer is my absolute second favorite of the 3. And then I'm not the IPA guy. So, Alex, what do you think of the IPA?
I buy it like at Barron's right here in North Park. So Clayton knows I love his. That's up my alley. And Scott, you got to go. I'm telling you, got to take the GF to Point Loma Eppig, dude. Have you even seen it?
No, I have seen the pictures, but I'll go this weekend.
I'm telling you, that's
make sure
that's the one place that I've been to.
Make sure you make a reservation on the weekend. Oh, I'm sorry, Patty. Make sure you make a reservation on the weekend. The seats fill up fast.
Okay,
seats fill up fast, and that's how COVID I am, man. That's the one place that I've been to twice.
She's from Point Loma, my GF, so she'll love to go down there. Oh. Hey, Clayton, congratulations to you, your partners, for all your success, to Eppig Brewing, and thanks for being part of Beer Friday.
Man, what a great way to take a break in the middle of my day. Thank you guys for having us on.
Appreciate it. Real pleasure, man.
Fantastic.
Awesome, dude.